With the recent announcement of Gears of War E-Day, you might be tempted to go back and play the original. And with Gears of War Ultimate Edition currently available on Game Pass, right now might be the best time to do so. But the real question is, should you? Considering Gears of War this year will be old enough to play, well, Gears of War.
Congratulations, you played yourself.
Yeah, believe it or not, it has been 18 years since it released. Think about it. If you had a kid when Gears of War came out, that kid is now old enough to drink alcohol. Well, at least in South Africa. I don't know about you, but that little fact makes that little kink in my knee act up. Look, if you came here expecting a direct answer to should you play it, the short answer is yes, hell yeah. And if you have never experienced this masterpiece, then you should stop what you're doing right now and change that. Actually, wait, don't do that just yet. Please, watch my video first, then play it. Otherwise, if you want to avoid spoiler, then run this video while you make a cup of coffee and come back in this many minutes. Also, leave a like for your boy, know that I appreciate you. Alright, I think we've hit our quota for DJ Khaled memes.
Have you ever played rugby?
Okay, that's the last one, I swear. And if you're wondering what's the context behind that clip, there is none. This man is just an infinite fountain of random catchphrase adjacent bullshit. Okay, let's reel it in. We're getting way off track here. Gears of War Ultimate Edition is a faithful remaster of the PC version that came out a few months after the original Xbox 360 version. The PC release was believed to be the best version of the game, as the only difference between the two is a few added chapters in the final act. But in its attempt to remain faithful to the original version, it feels held back by game design that may have been impressive in 2006, but feels outdated in 2024. Granted, Ultimate Edition came out in 2015, a whopping 9 years after its initial release of 2006. But between that time, we've seen 3 new titles from the series in the form of Gears 2, 3 and Judgment. Now, it has been a hot minute since I've played those titles, and at the time of writing the script, I have not replayed them, but I plan to get through all of them before the release of E-Day. The point is, even though I haven't played those games in over a decade, I can make an educated assumption that the gameplay has only improved as the series went on. And here's my issue with the Ultimate Edition. They have done next to nothing to improve the game beyond the 4K upscale in graphics. And even still, I would consider it a near perfect masterpiece. But there are a few things that hold this game back from greatness. For starters, let's begin with something that will not affect all players, but mostly those returning to the series, and others that prefer a bit of a challenge in their games. Yes, I'm talking about the hardcore difficulty setting. I imagine most veterans of the series will know what I'm talking about. Playing on hardcore or insane is quite possibly the worst way to play Gears of War. When I play action games, I almost always go with the difficulty option that's one above normal. Generally, this will be the hard option, but not insane. This to me has always been the sweet spot for difficulty, by adding a level of challenge that encourages you to put a little thought into each encounter, instead of mindlessly laying waste to everything and coasting through the game with minimal resistance. When it comes to Gears of War, I'm not a fan of how they've implemented difficulty. Playing on hardcore not only turns your character into a bullet magnet, but also turns your enemies into bullet sponges.
Not now. Oh yeah.
Yes, you could argue that hardcore does force you to consider strategy and prevents you from steamrolling enemies. So am I not getting what I just asked for? No, I'm not, because that's not what I want in this game. In this game, I want to be a hulking mass of a human, like Arnold in his prime. I want to incapacitate locusts by popping their heads like a chunky John Wick in power armor. This game is supposed to be an action-packed testosterone-fueled power trip. But instead, when playing on hardcore, that power is stripped from you by turning your character into a dainty dandelion, ready to be blown away in an instant by an enemy who does so little as to simply look in your direction. Couple this with the fact that peeking out of cover causes your aim to flinch for seemingly no reason, making your character feel like a victim of Parkinson's disease. You don't feel like a bunkered down tank. Instead, more like a plastic bag, drifting through the wind, wanting to start again. Anytime these prolonged gunfights occur, the momentum of the gritty power fantasy steam train slows down just a bit each time. until it eventually grinds down to a halt and becomes just infuriating. These enemies are just way too tanky, and the game even admits this. Ammo drops can come in the form of hundreds of bullets at a time. You might think this is overkill, but trust me, you're gonna need it. Ideally, what I would like to have seen in this hardcore mode is number 1, lower the enemy's health to be more in line with the amount they have in normal mode. I feel like good difficulty balancing doesn't rely on simply doubling the enemy's health. Instead, I believe creating more difficult scenarios for the player to overcome to be more interesting. And that leads me into my second point. 2. Increase the amount of enemies. Another way of creating a challenge without sacrificing that satisfying gunplay and snappy time to kill is simply add more enemies. This would force the player to keep their head on a swivel. It requires the player to be more alert and in turn creates a more challenging scenario that remains fun and encourages the player to improve on their gunplay. Alternatively, instead of increasing the amount of enemies, you can adjust enemy spawn location and placement, necessitating a strategic adjustment. Another great way of doing this would be simply introduce more elite type enemies to encounters where there previously was none. Thirdly, I would like to see less ammo and resources in general. This one goes hand in hand with the faster time to kill. Less enemy health means fewer bullets required, but to take it a step further, I would like to see a much smaller ammo reserve, forcing the player to scramble for dropped weapons when the gun runs dry. I personally always enjoyed this kind of playstyle in action games. It's great for making you step out your comfort zone of preferred weapons and gives you a new appreciation for less familiar ones. Finally, number 4. Adjustment of enemy AI in higher difficulty settings. This one is a bit of a stretch, considering we were probably pushing the limits of enemy AI at the time. On the other hand, Ultimate Edition came out nearly a decade after the original release of 2006, and I'm sure some steps were taken in the right direction of AI innovation. Look, I'm not a coder or programmer, and I have no idea if a game's AI can be tampered with in that sense, but what I would like to have seen is smarter enemies in the higher difficulties. For example, maybe enemies are more inclined to smoke you out of cover by throwing grenades, or maybe they work with each other to better coordinate pushes on the player, or even flank the player. And while we're on the topic of AI, let's discuss a major point of contention, for me at least, being a solo player in what is ultimately a co-op-centric game. That is the tremendously incompetent AI-controlled teammates. Alright, let me break it down for you. What you see happening here is an enemy has pinned us down with a mounted turret. So what I'm trying to do is push up this car so we can get closer to him without taking damage. What's supposed to happen here is a button prompt will come up calling Dom over to help me push this car. Instead, what you see is me desperately trying to issue a squad command telling my team to regroup because I know how this plays out. And sure enough, Dom rushes in and almost instantly dies. Second time around, I took a slightly different approach, thinking maybe if I take the right side of the car, then Dom can... oh, well, there he goes. Okay, never mind Dom. I still have 2 other teammates, and if we coordinate our push, then we can... oh, well, there goes Beard. Alright, never mind those 2 idiots. It's just you and me, Coltrane. Oh, I guess I'll do it myself. The best part is, after I killed the turret guy, I find out apparently my teammates were just collecting their breath because immediately after the whole ordeal, hero music plays and my squad gathers around for fucking high fives or something.
Next! Let's get that vehicle.
Hell yes. Don't have to tell me twice.
This whole set piece was a great demonstration of how god awful the AI is. I was prepared at every encounter for my teammates to die and just solo the segment. What's insulting is they added a squad order function, which I'm convinced is just a placebo because every time I issued a regroup, they would just continue doing their own thing. Usually in games, I can look past dumb AI and just leave them to their own devices. Let's be honest, most action games will balance the game in a way where AI will do very little work in combat. Otherwise, the game would just play itself if the actual player stands in a corner somewhere while the AI does all the work. I'm looking at you, Mimikteer. But if you've ever played Gears of War, you know that there's points in the game where you are forced to split up from your partner and take an alternate or adjacent route. For example, you might arrive at a courtyard and one player goes straight through it while the other takes the high ground and provides cover fire from the balcony overlooking it. For those segments, you are cut off from the playable area that your partner takes. The problem comes in when you are split, and now progression lies solely on that AI completing their task. This means that the game only progresses once the enemies in that area are killed. There has been a total of 3 times in my campaign where I had no line of sight on the final enemy and my AI partner refused to push up and kill them, forcing me to reload the checkpoint and do the whole encounter over again. So if you are going to play this game, I highly recommend getting a co-op partner if you can. If not, then be prepared for incredibly stupid AI. And while we're keeping the train rolling on stupid AI, let me introduce you to the final boss of this game, Ram. Now I guarantee you, veterans of this series already have an idea of what I'm about to say. In the beginning of this video, I mentioned that this version of the game is a faithful remaster of the original. For some people, that is exactly what they want when a game gets ported to newer hardware. Just give them the exact same game and make it 4K 60 FPS. And I believe there's only one game that's allowed to get away with that. That's obviously Bloodborne. The point I'm trying to make is that it remains faithful to a fault. A big, ugly fault. At this point, even if you have not played this game, you have definitely seen this guy's stupid face before. This boss is notoriously difficult and also notoriously broken. And here's my issue. After nearly 18 years, they failed to fix or update this boss fight. Up to now, if you take cover behind this specific block, Ram will sometimes just break for no reason. You'd think for a game dubbed the Ultimate Edition that they would just do the bare minimum and have it just work, you know? And this is not an isolated incident. It can be easily recreated over and over again. In fact, any walkthrough you look up on how to beat him will tell you need to exploit this bug in order to win. Luckily for me, I was playing on hardcore, so it only took me about an hour to beat him. Still though, a lot of those runs was ruined because he got stuck and I couldn't damage him. Or he would suddenly snap out of his broken state and instantly kill me. Alright, I'm gonna put my conspiracy hat on once more and say, I think these devs intentionally left the boss broken and exploitable. To me, this reads as them admitting this boss is poorly designed, and the exploit is pretty much necessary if you want to beat the game on insane difficulty, which is what I did. And let me tell you, it was no easy feat. Granted, I didn't play the whole game on insane, just the final encounter with Ram, and boy was it a challenge. To be fair, that's what you get when you ask for insane, but even still, I believe it goes beyond what I would consider a hard but fair challenge, and inches more in the realm of absurdity. From the reavers that shoot at you on either side of the train, to the krill that sometimes attack you in dimly lit areas and sometimes not, plus the boss's incredibly fast time to kill, unpredictable behavior, also throw in a rudimentary and sometimes unwieldy cover system, and I have a recipe for a boss fight that might actually drive you insane. Or you know, you could just do this. And there you have it folks, Ram beaten on insane, and disappointingly still broken 18 years later. Look, is Gears of War Ultimate Edition the best version of the game? Yes, technically it is, but that's not saying much, because it seems to be pretty much the 2007 version with a bit of upscaling. At the end of the day, I still consider it to be one of the best action games ever. If you're looking for an adrenaline-filled balls-to-the-wall action game, then look no further than Gears of War. But I will highly recommend on your first playthrough that you play on normal Even if, like me, you tend to go with hard on your initial playthrough. Trust me, I did the math. You are guaranteed to have a much more enjoyable time this way. The action is just better paced and way more satisfying. And please, for the love of God, bring a co-op buddy if you can. Otherwise, prepare yourself for dreadfully abhorrent AI.
Let's go, let's go! Marcus! Hold still! Damn it!
And with that, I want to thank you if you made it this far. You know what to do, leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it. You know, subscribe if you want to stick around and see more, because I put out a video about every 2 weeks. I'm not going to blow up your feed. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.
That doesn't make sense.